Hello and welcome back. In this lecture, you will be learning about Application Security Group. This is Application Security Group, very similar to the NSG, but it is on top of NSG. The reason being is you can control even micro segment level of security within your network layer. And this Application Security Group is completely follows your business logic. Let me explain what exactly Application Security Group at the high level first. So application security groups will allow you to configure your network security at the natural extension of any application structure. Let's say when I say natural application structure, let's take one example. As you may have here web servers, application servers. So these applications will be coming as a front end from here as a web server, and similarly these applications will have to communicate with database server as a backend. So front end would be your web servers, middleware would be your applications, and here the database. So that's your backend. So now this is your business logic. What happens is, if you want to design with a network security group, not with ASG, I'm talking about network security group layer, you may have to end up with creating a separate set of NSGs at each layer of your business logic, and at the end you would be end up with lot of overloaded with the network security group creation as well as the rules creation, and at the end to monitor and to check the logs, it would be a really difficult job, honestly. So that's where the application security groups comes into the picture. What happens is, uh, either you have multiple NSGs or you have a single NSG. It doesn't matter. What it matters is it should be on a same VNet. The servers should be in the same VNet. So as you know that if the machines are in the same VNet, they are free to communicate with each other. But if you want to isolate in a situation like web server can talk with application as well as the database server, but the database server shouldn't talk with web servers because they are might be exposed to internet. So in that situation, what we do is we create application security group and we would assign here. So what we do is we will create application security group and we assign on top of these computers. Let's say the first application security group or an ASG would be on your web servers, and the same one will also be allowed here. That means both can communicate with each other. But when it comes to DBs, since it does not have any ASG, it cannot communicate with these two of the categories. That's where what we do is we create one more ASG, and just for the application service as well as for the DB service. That's where both can communicate. But since the first category is not available for the web service ASG, it cannot communicate. We are going to do that in a practical in a minute or so. For now, let's understand what exactly NSG. So I told that network security microsegmentation is nothing but your application security group. That's where it is more focused, and it is more focused on your business logic of your applications and the service logic, not on any of the IP traffic or IP address filtering or any other rule settings. And it can implement very granular security controls to improve your isolation of your workloads, as I said, front end and back end and the middle servers, all that way, and it will protect them individually. At the same time, if a breach occurs, that would be very limited. It doesn't spread to other servers. So what exactly application security group? By this time you should be understanding that application security group enables you to configure your network security in a natural your business logic or your application structure, and that will allow you to group your virtual machines. And once you group those virtual machines, you can define your network security policies based on those virtual machines groups. Let's take one more final scenario to better understand so how it looks like. So in the previous design, that is, this is the design, what we have done is we have a network that's a VNet. On top of it, this VNet, this is a dots one is a VNet. On top of it, you have a NSG configured, And also you have different servers within this VNet, like web servers, application, and database servers. So definitely NSG will have different rules. But if you see here, normally in NSG you might be configured like IP address or any of the source kind of thing. But here what happened is, if you see, uh, the application's destination is web servers. That means web servers is the application security group name. So that means these three servers are falls under, I mean, what we have done is we have grouped it. When we grouped it, uh, and we labeled as web servers, so that's the name here what we have given for this ASG name. So it can communicate on a port 80 and 443. That's good. And if you see here, for the app servers, both can communicate here. That's a web servers as well as the app servers. But there's no communication between DB servers and web servers. So there's no rule in your NSG, so they cannot communicate. That's a design. So let's also look at the other design. This is a more complex design but easy to understand. So you do have here the web servers and also application servers and database servers. So what you're going to try to do is, you are opening, once you have grouped it, the first step is to group all the required virtual machines to one of the ASG group. So in this case it's the web servers. So that means within these three you can communicate, even though they are in the same VNet. Normally all these machines should able to communicate, but when you group it, so this becomes as one other, a special kind of container. Maybe I can use maybe a container kind of word, where this is becomes as a micro level of your network segmentation. Within this the communication would happen, but it doesn't go out. So when you want to communicate with these application servers, you have to group another one like app servers and then enable the communication. So you are explicitly saying that web server to app servers can communicate. Like that, you can make a group of different groups for the application security group, as well as the NSG specific firewall specific rules can be created, like inbound and outbound rules. So that way you're fully isolating within the same VNet. So let's jump into limitations, what you cannot do, what you can do here. Per subscription you can go for 3000 ASGs, and you cannot go more than that. That's a limitation from Microsoft Azure. And you can specify one application security group as a source, but you can't have multiple source. In this case, like you have a web server one, this is another group what they have created, right? Web server. So you can create here web server one, but you cannot have web server 1 and 2 in the source or maybe in the destination. So that's the this bullet point. And coming back to the other bullet point, you cannot have this VNet, for example, all these machines, I mean this ASG is applicable within the same VNet. Let's say you have maybe more than one VNet. In that situation, you cannot assign this ASG for different VNets. So it should be on the same VNet, all these group of servers. Also, it should be having, if a machine has a two network cards or more than one, both should be assigned for the same subnet. That's the same VNet. Otherwise, it doesn't work. That's a limitation because it's more about your application logic defined, so it should follow that steps. That being said, we will jump into demo. For this demonstration purpose, I will be using total 4 different servers. And just to explain at the high level, the server 1, the web server 1, web server 2 and web server 4 are in the same subnet you have. That means the same VNet. And when it comes to the server 3, this is completely different VNet, and you cannot communicate. So what we try to do is, we will be trying to connect, or we will be trying to enable RDP protocol on these servers, how best we can isolate. So the isolation purpose, what we do in this lab, we will be configuring these servers as a group of servers, and then we apply with the NSG help, we will be separating them with the protocol wise. So let's jump into the demonstration. These servers, so if I just click on server, web server 1, you see you may have to make a note kind of thing, like you see here just a port called 3389 with the priority of 300 from source as any. So once we have created application security group, we would be changing that value. So we would be creating the application security group from actually application security group. Here when we click on here, you have an option to create. So before doing that, I just wanted to show all these how these are available. So if you see, even the web server 01 is the NSG one for the both the servers. You can make a note on that. So you have the same web server 01 for the server 2 also. Search here within the Microsoft Azure All Services for the application security group, and then you would be able to get this group name, and then just click on it. And later point, you can simply click on add button to create a new application security group and choose the right subscription, and the resource group is the same resource group which I'm using. It's always recommended to use the same, and I'm giving here the name for the instance name, and the same region also I'm choosing where my resources are exist. And you see here, this is very clean, and there's nothing much inputs here. It is asking similar to a resource group kind of simple input is asking, and once we submitted this, it will create the deployment. Once it's created, I can go back to the required resource. So within this resource, I can see there's no much configuration that I can do here because we don't see anything except the audit log. So this is the one which we can see later point if needed, but for now there's nothing much here. And you also have here move option, so we don't have anything to do now with the move. And this application security group specific things will be configured on group of your servers. That means you have to go to each virtual machine and add the application group name as a tag. So what we do as a next step, I'll go back to dashboard, virtual machines, and then I'll go to one of the server. You see here web server 1. So all I have to do is from the web server 1, I'm grouping to that just created application security group. I'll just click on here to configure, and if I just drop down here, I can see my ASG, my application security group. So I just have selected that and saved. Same thing, I have to do it for my web server too. So once this saved, yes, it got saved. Let's go to web server 2, networking, and you see here again application security group. I have to configure here as that drop down list my application security group too. So now what happened is web server 1 and 2 are become as one group for that's part of one kind of container, as I explained in the as part of the demo. So now I'm going back to the server 4. Server 4 is again I wanted to make the same thing like application security group, but you see here if I just add this, it will not be a good demo, so I don't want to add it here, but I can show you here what's happening for the server 4 and the server 3 and server 3 and server 1 and 2. So 1 to 4, the servers are associated with the same NSG group. This is the NSG group, as well as you can see here the IP address 456, like server 4, server 2, server 1, all are assigned to one NSG. So the demo would be from the server 1 and server 2, we should be able to do the RDP from our local machine with the RDP protocol. What we do is we should be able to connect to 192 but not to the server 4. That's a demo. So when you try to connect here for the server 4, it shouldn't work. So to do that, we have to what we have done is we made these two servers as a group, but we did not add this server as a group to our ASG. So our ASG is grouped here with the two servers. So that means the communication is enabled for these two, not internally. When I'm talking about the protocol wise, that means at NSG level. So as a next step, what I have to do is I have to go to the NSG and do a configuration that saying that ASG to anything coming from the outside to the destination of ASG, I can set kind of rule. So that's the next part which I'm going to do it now. So let's go to since we have seen all this, let's go to inbound rules and seeing this. I'll just open this NSG, which is my NSG for the 3 servers, and I'll open this port. So I wanted to play with this for this demo 3389 port. So source can be anywhere, that's fine, but my destination I wanted to choose here. As you can normally know, what happens is you would normally all these days you might be ending up to configure with the IP addresses, but this may not be a good solution because if your business logic or your application logic is completely different, you cannot go for the micro level of network segmentation. So that's where this application security groups comes into the picture, and I have to choose here application security group. Once I've chosen this, in the destination I can choose my ASG group name. That means my the group of 2 servers from anywhere will only go and will be enabled for this protocol, that is 3389 protocol. And I can give the description if I want, but I can just wanted to save it. So now what happened is I should be able to communicate from my local machine for these group of 2 servers which are in this ASG group. So this ASG group is grouped of 2 servers, so that should work. So ideally the server 4 shouldn't work. The reason being it's not part of your ASG, right? So now what we're going to do, we'll just refresh maybe, and you can see destination as ASG. Now I'm in top of my server. I'll just try to connect from the Azure portal and show you. Just download the file, connect. So this is a server 1, so I should be able to connect. I'll just give my password and it gets connected. That's good and interesting. It got connected, and then I'll just connect to server 2, similar thing. So for the server 1, server 2 both works because they are part of ASG group, same ASG group, whereas the server 4 is not part of the ASG group. So let's connect with the giving the user ID and password. I can sign out even because the logon process is completed successfully. Now it's time to test for the server 4. This server 4 shouldn't connect because it's not part of ASG group. So just connect. So it takes some time and it will throw an error saying you cannot connect it. So maybe it's a good time for you to show even with the telnet command whether this port is open or not at the NSG layer. So it successfully said that you cannot connect. So our demo is successful at this point of time. Now I'll just take this IP address and go to command prompt and do a telnet to that IP on a port called 3389. That's a port which we configured in our NSG. You see, it took some time and it got failed. So it's failed to open the port. So that's the configuration for the application security group. I hope this is useful for you. If I wanted to enable for server 4, I'll just go to the server 4 networking. I do the same thing, just go to the application security group and simply have to select my ASG group name. That's it. Now if I just do the Azure telnet, it should work. That's how it's going to work. So pretty simple that it actually follows your application structures. So whatever the logic you have, you wanted to isolate your some of the front end back end servers, you can do it very well. Now let's type the port. It got connected. That means I should be able to now do the RDP. That concludes our demo and how to use this application security group. I hope this is useful for you. Thank you for watching this.